Most people only see the wins online, and that genuinely pisses me off because what they don't see is the hardships of building something from scratch, especially when you have no roadmap. So, if you're in the trenches right now, starting a brand from the get go, and you're looking to make this a full time business, this will feel super real to you because not long ago I was genuinely in the same spot. In this video, my good friend Elijah interviews me about my journey of starting Mertra during COVID, showcasing to getting scammed, to rebuilding, to growing, to eventually hosting a pop-up store with over 1,000 people in line. We break down everything that I wish I knew, the systems that changed the game, and how I've transitioned into helping other brand owners inside our new community that we are building for startups. Enjoy.
Casper, take me back to the moment before the brand. What were you feeling and what was life like?
So before the brand, I had just finished school, which, you know, it feels like ages ago now, and pretty much it doesn't feel like far off as well. So I just finished school. It was first year of university and COVID hit in Australia specifically. That was a big deal in Melbourne. The lockdowns were so severe and it just forced me to be inside basically, and had no idea what I was wanting to do, had no connection with the university, had always felt, you know, I wanted to do something more, but didn't know what that was because I wasn't actually able to work or, you know, meet people at that time. So it was a really weird stage for me.
Okay. And so what was your restlessness with that stage of life that actually led you to look for some kind of change? And because I imagine you weren't doing business back then, were you?
No. So it was literally just like first year uni, figuring it out. I was like, had a few jobs lined up, which were just casually, do you know what I mean? Just a bit of hospitality and working at a gym at the time as well. But they kind of fell through because we were just forced to be indoors.
Yeah. So what were you questioning most in that moment?
In terms of questioning, I don't think specifically in that time I had like a moment going like I wanted to start a business, because there was just so much complexity around my life at that time. No one really knew what was happening day to day. No one knew what was going to happen next, what the next announcement was. So in terms of like questioning most, it was very clouded, to be honest, of what my next direction was. And it just so happened that when you're locked down, you spend more time on social media, basically. And I think seeing, you know, creatives still being able to a level like, you know, release content and work on, you know, graphic designs and art. I really love creative industry, and I follow so many amazing, you know, artists and pages, and scrolling and doing a bit of a doom scroll and seeing these things still being shared and like worked on like a passionate level. I think that's what, you know, sparked the initial interest in terms of the brand. In terms of how the brand even came about, it was simply seeing a graphic design artist that Aaron and I liked, and we were like, that would look super dope on a t-shirt. And that's just how the idea was kind of born.
What was one of the earliest conversations that you remember having with your business partner and friend about this brand that actually started the trajectory of you deciding to commit to this journey?
It's an interesting one. I don't think there was a single point where it was like, okay, let's do this. I know, you know, with both of our personalities, when we've got, you know, a goal in mind or we're passionate about something, it's like it's all or nothing kind of vibe as well. So when, as I was saying, that initial spark of seeing that graphic designer and we're being like, okay, this maybe looks cool on a tee and whatever, from that point, it was just like research and just find out as much as we could. Doing it blindly as well, but like just, you know, YouTube videos, looking online, asking, you know, our inner circle if, you know, has anyone started a brand or manufacturing experience, or if they knew a graphic designer that could help. So I think the initial moment was almost where the idea came from. That was the moment of almost going all in, just because of our personalities and, you know, how much we love to learn and everything like that. In terms of, I think you get to a point when you're working behind the scenes before you launch, you realize I've put in so many fucking hours to this thing already that people haven't seen. And what would be the point of slowing down now without sharing your work and learning and getting better from, you know, the real world seeing it essentially. So I think there wasn't a singular moment, but just through the hustle and just learning, that's kind of how it came about of going, maybe we'll just give this a crack, right?
Take me through from the moment you first came across that designer,
Yeah.
did your research up until that first drop. What were some of the most interesting and key moments in that series of events that you believe will be interesting, especially to new brand owners?
I think there's definitely a few things. You could list off so many. I think specifically for, you know, us and me, there wasn't as many great resources potentially as there is now in terms of guides or just people that you can kind of rely on. So we were kind of just shooting in the dark and seeing, you know, what stuck, and a lot of it, you know, didn't work, and that was fine, and we learned from that. In terms of maybe what we did that I feel like with working with brands, and I'm sure that you've seen the same, is they see, you know, let's start a brand, or they're ready to start a brand, and they do like one design, or they come up with their first name and they just roll with it. But in our planning and preparation, and the exploration of what we were looking to create, there was so much work behind the scenes and almost second guessing in a good way of like, this is our name, but then we've been working on it for 2 weeks, you know, 2 more weeks every day. Do we still want to call it that name? And things like this, like, what are we looking to create? What message is it? What garments are we looking to do? And I think that reflection and not rushing that process before launch allows you to really, you know, have a concrete idea of, you know, when you're finally ready to show the world something that you are proud of. Obviously, you're going to look back and reflect and be like, I could have done these things better and everything like this. But I think the biggest mistake I see compared to maybe is just like setting yourself up properly. And when no one knows about your brand and there's no expectations of, you know, release dates or, you know, promises to your customers, don't rush the process and just like really develop and explore it and create something that you're proud of.
What did you believe back then about success and business that turned out to be completely wrong?
I think all like everything, but to be honest, but although we did set ourselves up and worked really hard behind the scenes, I think the understanding of everything that goes into a business, we were super naive about that concept just because we hadn't done it before. And, you know, you're learning everything, you know, on the fly. And what I mean by that is, although people just think creating, you know, a garment and a t-shirt is like the first step, it's understanding, you know, marketing, it's customer service and delivering value with that. It's, you know, systems, organization side of things. How ahead are you to save money? And then also like understanding your finances and everything like that. So there's so many different hats you have to wear. And I think we were naive just because we didn't know, and we kind of had to explore and learn that and just improve day to day, and just going like, we have no idea about this and it's fair enough. But we're like willing to give it a crack and, you know, figure it out on the fly.
That's the interesting thing about fashion, because on the surface, it looks like you create and design a t-shirt, you make some videos and photos, and other than that, there's not much to it. Although that's the tip of the iceberg, really.
Well, I think as well, that's the fun stuff. And that's I guess the biggest thing, that's the fun stuff, and that's the creative, you know, expression, and that's where it gets shown. And it's the reason probably why you wanted to start the brand in the first place, right? And when that's the case, I think when people don't realize the other things and they might take more time, and that isn't, you know, the enjoyable aspect of the brand, that's where people do give up, you know, which is fair enough. I think it's a really interesting one that when you ask people why they start their brand, there's a few different answers to it. And I think if the answer isn't purely like as the core motive of I want this to be like a creative expression or creative outlet, or this is something I truly give a shit about, and it's specifically like money focused, I think you're really going to struggle. Obviously your end goal can be money, right? Like if you've done it for a while, like you'd love this to be, you know, your business from what was once a side, you know, a side hustle or just something that you wanted to do for fun. But if you're coming into this going like, I'm going to make money immediately, it's probably not going to be the case. And then when shit gets tough, you're going to fucking struggle and not be that motivated to actually give it a crack and do that next step.
Take me to the moment of that initial release of your product. This is when every moment and every minute, every hour, every month of preparation was going to be realized. Was this going to be made? Was this going to break? Where were you? Who were you with? What happened in the minute of the release, and how did it make you feel?
So where was I? To answer the question, was at Aaron's house, the other co-founder. We were just on like his dining table. It was a really crazy experience and a stressful one as well, because we've worked so hard to create something and it's finally like, it's do or die. It's so weird. It's like months and months of work and planning, and it's a single click of a button for people to be able to purchase it. It's like just a bizarre experience, especially for the first time. We were on the kitchen table, you know, a few partners and friends and stuff, more family that we saw friends kind of like the coming days after, but like sold out on the night, which was like absolutely insane for the first release. And it was like a big-ish collection. I would say is probably more than what we should have done for that initial release, and like what I'd advise now. But, you know, worked really well. Obviously a large portion of that was, you know, friends and family support, no doubt, but still nonetheless, like it was a really rewarding experience. But I think seeing a taste of it and, you know, learning that process, well, like how the fuck can we do this and get it into the hands of more people that can have such a positive experience that, you know, aren't just our friends and family as well.
So it went so well on the first time and even the first few times to follow, because I remember I met you guys very soon after that initial drop. And
I think you podcasted us just after our second release.
I think so. And that was a point where there was still so much excitement around it. But even this naivety that is within these beginner brand owners, if I may say. So I must ask, was there ever a point when reality hit you in the face and you even considered that it might end, or you considered quitting? Was that ever a thing?
Multiple times, yes. And I think if you don't have that, if that thought, you're not thinking about the brand properly on a business level as well. So in terms of the first time that, you know, really sticks out to me, it was before we had actually met. And the first release went super well, obviously. And we're like, all right, bigger and better. Let's do a second collection. And, you know, looking back, it's like probably our fault, like just because we didn't, you know what we could control or, you know, best handle the situation. But we're working with a Pakistan manufacturer and just probably didn't vet them properly. It wasn't the best thing. Maybe our tech packs weren't as good as they should have been, but we low-key got scammed. And like from what we'd received samples wise to like what we got in the bulk order from, like, I don't know how many pieces it was specifically, but, you know, there was half of it was almost unsellable. And for us to, you know, invest the money, you know, investment money, but also the money we made for the first release into this bigger and like better collection that we would have hoped for, like having, you know, half of it wiped out, you know, before it's just because it's genuinely unsellable, because we didn't want to, we were trying to create as much value as possible for these, customers. We're like, there's no way we can fucking do this. So that was a slap in the face. And I think when you think of like the financial aspect of it, that was a really hard thing to come to terms with as well, going like, fuck, what are we going to do? Do we order more stock? Do we find another manufacturer? Like, this was our release plan and date. Like, we have to do it like this. But I think there's always a solution, despite that maybe not coming to at that immediate time. But there's always a solution. So we split up the second collection to, half of what we were going to release, and then we almost had to wait another couple months, and then we did the second half after it got redone. But that slap in the face, despite it fucking sucking, to be honest, was like probably the best moment of going like, we've put money in. This is low key like a business we've got to, treat with care, learn more about the systems and processes. And it made us like kind of just take that next step of like putting more effort and time into it and finding new manufacturers and like figuring out what's the systems behind this that we can control to get better. So despite it being probably the biggest heartache, starting out, and a moment where there was definitely doubts of like, is this going to work out? Probably was the best learning curve as well, to really go like, this is what we want to do.
It's easy to say that upon reflection, now being well and truly over the other side. But when you guys are at that bottom, like the very rock bottom of that pit, where it's set in, the dread of the moment, you've understand this is totally unsellable. You look at your bank account and see that the numbers in there aren't truly what they're going to be, because you're going to be out of pocket too much.
It's fucking tough.
Is it tempting to quit? I
think, yeah. I mean, like, I wouldn't say it's tempting in terms of like you want to do it, but I think, at the age we were, both in uni, you know what I mean? Both having other jobs. It's like the reality of it not becoming like the reality of it being a full-time business at that point probably was so far-fetched to even consider. So I would say like a lot of people could easily give up in that moment. And that's why I think you see so many brands do like 1 to 2 releases and then you don't really see from them again. Because probably that motivation and that passion, as I was saying, and what they were looking to create, and the reason why they were even doing this in the first place probably shines through in these really difficult moments. But yeah, I mean, there's so many times when you're doing a new business or starting a new journey or learning a new skill, where when you feel that resistance, it is tempting to give up. But I guess like when you are feeling that resistance, that is like the perfect opportunity that'll show that like that is the perfect opportunity for growth, because you're challenging yourself. It feels difficult, and it's meant to feel difficult as well. Like, perfect analogy, if you went to the gym every week and lift the same weights, like you're not going to get any bigger or any stronger or feel any better. Like, you're just maintaining. But if you do a little bit each week and a little bit more, and you throw yourself in the deep end a bit, that's where the real growth will come. So yeah, I mean, it's always tempting to give up at times, but I feel like now, maybe it's just my personality, when you hit those moments, I'm like, fuck yeah, let's do it. Like, let's go all in. Which, yeah, I don't know, sometimes doesn't work out for the best, but it's a good trait to have sometimes too.
And I think the reason that, or it being so difficult, means that not everyone has a successful clothing brand. That's not a bad thing. That's a good thing for most people out there, because it means, well, if you can get through and push through those hard moments when you're faced with being broke, when you're faced with large investments, when you're faced with extreme amounts of risk, that's a moment for someone to prove themselves and become part of the 1% that do actually make it, because most don't.
100%.
Yeah. So and I know you have as well, Casper, both you and Aaron, in your own experience when you first started this, but also since then, you've come into contact with many brands that have lost large sums of money. I even know myself, I've run into brands that have lost $20,000, $30,000 from manufacturer scams. There's an amazing opportunity to save someone those tens of thousands, maybe even hundreds of thousands of dollars in the long run. What if you could give a list or a checklist as concise as possible for the things to look for to vet a manufacturer or a supplier, especially for a new clothing brand doing low minimum order quantities? What would that checklist be to look for?
Great question. Obviously, heads up, I might forget a point or two just because we're on the fly here. So I can definitely do a video on what, that would look like. But specifically, I think first and foremost, before looking for a factory, when you're starting out, design how you want to design. Like, don't limit yourself in what you're looking to create. Maybe that's not the best piece of advice, but the reason why I say this is, like, if you're looking to create a certain piece at a certain point, these things take time, and they, you need to refine and iterate and be patient and sit with the design before you go, this is ready to be put into production, right? Or ready to get a sample. So before even thinking of vetting a factory, before even thinking of ordering a sample, fucking sit with your designs for a bit longer so you're really proud of them. And then I guess when it comes to the checklist, you shouldn't even be reaching out to a manufacturer before you know how to master a tech pack. Reason being for it is we've gotten questions before. I know I get questions, DMs daily of which factory should I use for this? Or, what factory do you use? And you're like, where are you at in your brand? And they're like, oh, I've just started designing, but I know I want to do this garment. And it's like, okay, great. I can provide you with recommendations for factories. But even when I do that, the first thing they're going to ask is, what's your tech pack? What's your MOQ you're looking for? Do you know what I mean? Do you have these files and assets? And if you don't, then there's no point in building that relationship there and then, because you're just delaying the inevitable. And it's also going to show that you're not ready as a brand. Do you know what I mean? You're not as prepared as you need to be. So therefore it's going to probably show to them you're starting out. A lot of the times these are businesses and they don't have time to teach you to. That's not their job to show you the process. But yeah, so checklist, design heavy, tech pack, and then vet the factories when you have these happy, ready to go. In terms of vetting, this is on an overseas, when you're working with overseas manufacturers, everyone says, work with Alibaba, it's an easy starting point. That's very true, especially if you're doing lower MOQ. So I'm not saying that's a bad take. And I think there's a negative analogy sometimes surrounding a negative perspective surrounding Alibaba, because there is, times where they get scammed and everything like this. But if you can control what you can control, you're going to give yourself the best opportunity to get the best result. What I would do, if you're looking on Alibaba, verified supplier, click trade assurance, 4.6 stars or more in terms of their reviews, and 3 years of experience, I would say minimum. Obviously, you want the higher end of all of those things. And from there as well, have a look at their catalog, get on a video call with them. I feel like so many people miss that, that step of actually build a connection and see what they're about and where they're doing the production. Because if you were doing a job interview, you want to meet them in person, essentially. You want to connect with them a few times before committing and putting thousands of dollars up front or paying them a salary. It should be no different in this case as well.
I love that. That's very practical. Thanks, Casper. So you had this horrible manufacturer scam situation, but you guys were able to bounce back, and all the stronger now that you had this learning under your belt. And so when you were able to grow it to a point where you could start thinking about scaling even further, quitting your jobs and so on, what did doubling down look like for you?
A lot of sacrifice, on a personal, journey, whether that's commitments to things I, love to do, sport and everything like this, I actually got into a probably not the best routine in terms of looking after my health because I was just like working. I think in terms of doubling down, it's just the more time you put in, the bigger commitment, the more reps, the better you get. No, it's not a crazy answer. But there was a lot of sacrifice as well before being ready to be full-time, like having a casual part-time job, which I was almost at the start doing both and trying to juggle all of that and uni and my personal life at the time. And then when it came to like going, we need to put more time into the brand, I'm going to take less shifts of my job, so therefore less disposable income, just so there's more, I can put more into the brand. And then that comes with like financial, struggles as well, and there's a bit of a hesitation there. And, what is this the right thing to do? What's right and wrong? Where is my time most valuable? And, the doubts come in with that. So doubling down just means sacrifice, I think. Before it even becoming full-time, it's sacrificing, your time in your everyday life to just get better and better and put the reps in and grow and learn as you go.
There's a lot of brand owners that I speak to, and you would speak to them equally, that they suggest that they're serious about it. And then when it comes to making any kind of financial investment into themselves, whether it be in education or in doing a clothing drop and scaling bigger than the last one, or
More
starting
samples.
with ads or samples, whatever it is, that's when they get a bit hesitant. And the excuse I hear at this point is, well, I just don't have the cash. So for someone, as someone that actually kept a part-time job when things were going really well, so you could consistently reinvest into the business, what would you say to someone in that position that wants to invest more, but doesn't have the cash?
I think like it's an interesting one. Like I'm trying to say, like, go all in when you can, but you need to be strategic with it, right? Live within your means. And what I mean by that is sacrifice a lot in terms of if it's investing in education, if that's investing in ads or investing in whatever is best for you and your brand at that moment. And that it might put financial pressure on you, but like do it in a way that you can live within your means. Like don't make yourself bankrupt, and everything like this. But also I think when there is a financial commitment, and sometimes that might be a large sum, it's almost a commitment to yourself to make this fucking work. And I know that's the case. And I've done, coaching opportunities now, and, mentorships and stuff. And the larger the sum, the harder you're going to fucking work to make this worth it as well. And I think if there's a small portion of money, you can be like, doesn't really matter, right? Like I'll earn that back or whatever that is. But if it is a larger commitment, you're going to be like, shit, what am I doing today to fucking hustle so I can make this my business,
Exactly. It can almost be the driving force or the fuel, the rocket behind you to
I think
propel you into
the
where you want to
rocket
go.
to take that next step as well, right? And I think as well, there's so many great resources and there's so many great people now online that you can chat to. And I know Mr. Beast has made like so many comments about this, but it's like, why fuck up and like work on like, and I guess there's a hustle mentality of like, I've got to do it all myself, like all of this stuff. But like, you're only as big as your team. And if you're trying to, carry all the load, at some point, you're going to break down. And what I mean by that is if you would, in the Olympics and you're running like a 400 meters, you're going to lose compared to 4 people running 100 meters just because they've got more gas in the tank. And when they're ready to work, they can just fucking go. So what I mean by that is if you can slowly build a team or, find out more information from mentorships that is specific to you, that's going to save you from making that mistake and that, losing that time and losing that money, fucking use those resources and challenge yourself and commit to yourself so you can really take that next step and it will just make you benefit so much more as a person and probably on a business level as well.
Amazing. Yeah, love it. So let's talk systems now. What were you doing behind the scenes inside of Mertra, the brand that you were working on, that most people didn't see? Beyond just the clothing drops and the fancy photos and videos going out into the world.
I mean, as you were saying, there's so many hats you have to wear, from understanding accounting to trademarking to, all of these things. So like the list is endless. In terms of what people don't see is like, I think there's just no one really has an idea of how far in advance you should be working as a brand owner, given manufacturing times, bulk order times, sea shipping to get ahead and all of these things. So if you think you're ahead, you're not. There's always more you can do. And if you have a to-do list that you're ticking off each day and there's not 100 other things that you should be doing, you're not planned enough, or you're not organized, or you don't know like what you should be doing next. What I mean by that is, obviously with my own experience and other brands, Adidas and Nike and all of these, streetwear brands, Cortez, and, they're doing forecasting of 2 years ahead. Like it's just as simple as that. And they're sampling 12 months ahead. So therefore they can do sea shipping. So therefore they can plan longer and do better marketing campaigns and do these over multiple days and not feel rushed. And I think just, the work behind the scenes that people see, the work behind the scenes that people don't see is just how much work, right? I think, which is it's a really simple concept. There's no secret formula, but how far ahead are you compared to how far ahead are we?
And when brands come to you, Casper, and say, hey, I've got this problem because we're releasing a clothing drop in about 3 weeks from now, but we just had this issue where there's a delay on the shipping order, or we just had this issue where the samples, they just came through. I'm just about to order the bulk, and well, it turns out we need to do another round of samples, and I've already promised a date. Can you touch on how forecasting can address that very issue?
It's more so, yes, definitely. I think as a brand owner, as soon as you say a date, as soon as you have a commitment, there's expectation, deliver on that, right? And so don't shoot yourself in the foot and release a date just because you think you'll be ready without thinking of what's plan B and plan C if shit hits the fan. And like, it's always going to hit the fan. There's always something that's going to come up, right? You could get sick, manufacturing delays, that bulk order, is stuck, in transit for longer than you expect, right? Like all of these things happen. And the simple answer is the further ahead you are, the more time you have to recover when these situations do arise. Simple as that. So instead of you being like, okay, I've got 3 weeks and I'm waiting for the shipping, which is 2.5 weeks, then I have a photo shoot and all this stuff. It's like, don't rush. If you're not launched, plan what the first 3 or 4 collections will look like, right? Even if you're not going to order them because of the time investment, have an idea of what that is. That way, when shit does hit the fan, you've got something in your back pocket and being like, I know what I can do next to counter that problem.
Amazing. Someone just saved, again, thousands of dollars. You'd think this information would be behind a paywall at this point, Casper. This is great. I remember watching Mertra from, after having met you guys over the months, and then that year, it just grew thousands to 10,000 followers and so on. What do you believe made your drops consistently sell out beyond the product? Because we knew that was good, but there's lots of brands with great products that don't actually sell out. So what beyond the product made your drops consistently sell out, in your opinion?
I think in terms of a marketing perspective, no secret formula, but like I talk about it with my clients now, and it's like the 3 C's: create constant conversation. And what I mean by that is, beyond the product and beyond all of this, it kind of, the more consistent we were with releases, with marketing, with videos, with, influencers and stuff, it kind of seemed like there was just a buzz everywhere at that moment. And there was something new to talk about every 2 to 3 weeks. And even if that wasn't a new release, that might have been a post or something, you know what I mean? There was something always ticking along, which made the audience go like, what's going to happen next? What are they releasing next? How can I get involved? Right? So I think that's probably the biggest thing beyond the product, specifically products wise in Australia in that moment as well. Everyone was doing the same shit. And that sounds a bit like everyone was doing the same shit. And I think we were trying to find a point of difference, even though it might have been riskier to stand out more. And I think that's a strategy which can kind of be utilized, one in product development right now, but in anything, it is super important to have a look at what's worked from bigger brands, right? You're doing market research and seeing, the most views or what's their best sellers. And you can do your own twist on it. I know there's the 3% rule, but I know also if you create something that's new and, exciting and people haven't rinsed, fucking showcase that and give it a crack and think ahead, because that's how you're going to get attention, and a large amount of attention, when people haven't seen something before and they fucking like it, right? For us, that was the reversible vest. For us, that was the detachable cap. At that time, no one had done that stuff. A reversible hoodie. And I know a lot of things have been done. It doesn't have to be a new garment. It doesn't have to be revolutionary, but maybe it's a trim. It's a detail that people haven't seen for ages. Like, these little things are what's going to help you stand out and have a point of difference for people to be like, this brand gives a shit about the little things. I'm going to see what they're all about.
And up until this point, everything that you had done was online. It was just Instagram, maybe even some TikTok. You were interacting with followers via the DMs.
Yeah.
But was there a moment when you and Aaron realized, flip, this community is real? Like, there are real people, and this is now the magnitude this has got to. Was there a moment?
There was, and that was the first in-person event that had happened. And yeah, as you were saying, everything's online. You connect on the DMs over voice memo, and we used a lot of our fans as models at the start as well, which was a really cool experience. So you're connecting with them in person, right, on that community level. But the first pop-up we did, had no idea really how it was going to go. You have people that support online and, all of these things. But we did our first pop-up. I'll show a photo as well in this B-roll, I'm sure. But there was it was over 2 days on the weekend, Saturday, Sunday. We set it all up, did our posts and everything. And there was I remember just before going to bed, I ended up going to bed super late, and I saw a story of someone waiting in the line already. And I was like, there's no fucking way, right? I was like, there's no way. And I think it was 2, 3 a.m. or something. And then when I woke up, you looked at the stories and the messages, and there was okay, there's a few people here. There's a lot of people here. And then when we got there and we parked a couple streets away, we were walking down the street, and from walking down the street, we were seeing people look at us, and then we're like, what's that line for? And it was for our pop-up, and it wrapped around the block. There was probably over 1,000 people on day one in line. That was the moment where you're like, holy fuck, this is in-person connections, right? And finally being able to talk to these people and, really connected, that's what life's all about. And I think obviously starting online is a lot easier for a lot of brands, but if you can do in-person events, if you can connect with your followers and fans, even if it's on a one-on-one level for coffee, that's where true value is delivered. And that's where you're going to, get a lifetime value customer that gives a shit about you. So having those conversations was, you know, crazy. Hearing people flew down from Sydney, had driven 3-4 hours, or was on a train from the country, and you're like, holy fuck, like people have put in that much effort to just come to this, you know, this event was a really, really rewarding, but like just a really warm experience as well. And like pure joy. And when I'm reflecting on it, like I'm smiling right now because it was just such a dope moment. And I think it's just such a dope experience, like meeting creatives in the industry or supporters of these creatives. Like I'm really good friends with a lot of these people to this day, which is just a really, really cool thing to admit. And I'm very grateful for that as well.
Am I incorrect to say that someone got a Merkford tattoo as well?
You're not that is the case. yeah, of the logo.
That is wild. I remember writing on my email list back in the day, you know, you've built a strong community when someone gets your logo tattooed on their calf.
Yeah,
like
there's actually a gas flick where we were just like pointing at it. But yeah, that was fun.
I remember that. So Casper, when did you start thinking like a business owner instead of just a designer?
I think there was a really specific moment for that. And the reason was, you know, we were lucky enough to have a couple people that, you know, had been in the industry and a mentor and everything like this. And we caught up with him after a release, and, you know, he was like, we were super pumped, like it sold out. And we're like, fuck yeah, this is dope. And he was like, oh, you know, what was the margins? You know what I mean? Like for the garment. Had no idea. And we're like, fuck. Okay. Like it was that moment of going, and then he was like, this is still a side hustle for you guys. Like this isn't a business. And I think in our head, because of, you know, the success, although you might not want to admit it, everyone's got a little bit of ego that's just sitting on their shoulder, no matter how, like who you are as a person. And I think maybe in that moment, it was like gradually rising a little bit, and him just going like, hey, you guys still have no fucking idea what you're doing, right? And that was a really good moment to go like, okay, shit, need to get the systems down pat, need to be more organized, and everything like that. And I think, you know, in the coaching space, and you'd be aware, like I think everyone can hear that advice, especially if they're really looking to take it to the next level. Like you need to do more. You need to be better. This is how you can get better though. And doing it in a way where it's like, let me guide you, or I'll help you throughout this process.
So what specific systems or habits or frameworks did you guys actually implement after those conversations, and how did it change things?
I think just getting better at like what needs to be done each day, and not shooting in the dark. What do you need to prioritize? And like,
is that literally like to-do list? Are we talking Notion? Like what is the system?
So I guess like back then I would say the system was still figuring out what those systems were. In terms of like my advice right now, and this is a bit of a plug, I've just built an organization operating system for brand owners specifically, because what I realized is if you aren't a brand that's got a team and it like knows this, like there's no really good resources that, you know, have an understanding of only what a brand owner needs and like all the hats you have to wear, from to-do list, product development, goal setting, you know what I mean, manufacturer communication, content planning, photo shoot planning. And I realized this when working with my clients one-on-one, going, fuck, everyone's unorganized. People know what they kind of need to do, but what should they prioritize at that point? And, you know, how can I put this all in one place? And no one was really aware of that. So I've built my own operating system for that. So that's a quick plug. Hit me up if you want. It's been amazing. Like all the people that have like gotten access to it have just gone like, it's pretty fucking insane. Elijah, you've seen it.
Yeah, and I think the people I think the people that recognize the value of a resource like this are those that realize the alternative to this is maybe a personal assistant who will run you $5,000 to $7,000 a month,
Yeah.
or just 100 different like subscriptions or courses that really aren't going to lay it out for you like this. Like maybe they'll briefly go over, okay, here's what we did. We made this to-do list like this. But to have it actually laid out where you have every specific section, like you're discounting what it like an alternative by amazing margins, which is incredible that you can offer that.
I think the great thing about it is like it's built out in a way that if you were starting, it's great for you. But then it's also built out in a way of like, I've been doing this for 3 years and it's still great for you. So like
it can scale with you.
It can scale with you. And like, I just like gave it access and did the offer with someone that's like been in the game for 4 years. And they're like, holy fuck, the amount of hours I've tried to make a version of this and like that I'll save with sharing this to my team members. It was like super fucking cool to hear. And I think it's just, you know, when you're starting out and it's maybe not even full time for you right now, but even if you are just starting out, knowing what to do, when to do, and where everything is, like those 3 things are so critical. And you won't realize how, especially when shit like starts heating up and you're ordering samples weekly, like how do you keep track of all of these things? But if you're not ready for that point, set yourself up so when you do need, you know how to do it. You know what I mean? So it's not just like, I've got to do all these things and now I need to learn how to, you know, organize these things as well.
Was there a point where what you were building with Mertra became something bigger and you realized it wasn't just clothing anymore?
I think that pop-up event was probably like that biggest moment of like that in-person connection. And from that moment you go like, your mindset goes from like, I didn't earn this, or like this is the amount of, you know, sessions on my site. This is the amount of people on my website. And I think that's a critical difference of going like, this isn't just numbers. These are people with emotions, with feelings, you know, and you need to deliver as much value as you can across all aspects of brand owning for it to even just be worthwhile. Like that should be your goal.
Yeah. I love that transition from going numbers on a spreadsheet or sessions or sales or revenue, whatever it is, to people.
Yeah.
Or going from followers to community.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, it's really the same distinction. And I think it brings a lot of purpose. And it leads me to my next question. Why did you start helping other brand owners since exiting Mertra?
As simple as like, I want to help people not fuck up and make the mistakes that like I unfortunately had to learn and go through. It doesn't need to get more complicated than that. I think I really love helping people. I really love, you know, working on some creative projects and connecting with, you know, as many people as possible as well. I think it's a really great thing and super rewarding. And, you know, with online setting, it's been great to be able to do that worldwide connections, you know, clients within Australia, UK, America and stuff as well. So Europe in general. So that's been a really, you know, a dope thing that I've really loved in the last, you know, 18 months specifically.
Sick. And I think the most exciting thing about all of this, Casper, is that you and I, longtime friends from the beginning of Mertra, now get to join forces in a sense and build something exciting together. Can you touch on it?
So bit of an insight, as you were saying, Elijah and I have known each other for years. And then Elijah has been, you know, really great in his specialty is building communities and, you know, loyal followers that aren't just customers, you know, and that value exchange. And, you know, I've really, you know, been aligned and I've loved, you know, his work, and you should check out his YouTube. It's like fucking insane. And it's next up if it's not already there already. And what, you know, there was a direct alignment between Elijah and I. We get along really well as people, and I think their values and principles are really similar. And when it came to my coaching, there's an aspect of like wanting to help as many people as possible. obviously you have to do that in a way that does make sense. And it's like, how can I deliver as much value to, you know, these wider audiences? So I'm joining his school community, which he's already built and has got a really great foundation to, you know, give my 2 cents on certain things with product development, you know, manufacturing, and, you know, all of these type of things, and, you know, systems and stuff like that. So we're going to be, you know, working together to, you know, deliver as much value as possible and just help as many people as possible as well. And
that's the mission. And I think the really cool thing about this, or the reason this is coming into fruition now, is because we realized we can provide not just 2 times more value together, but 10 times.
Yeah.
Because someone could get help on their marketing, but then they have a crap product and it hasn't really moved the needle. And then someone could get help on the product development and streamline their processes, but then their marketing sucks and they build no community and no one is even buying it in the first place to realize it's so good. But these 2 things come together and you've now just fixed a major business problem without having to be a generalist. Instead, you bring 2 specialists together and then the power, it goes to a whole nother level. Yeah, and so that's where I think we're like strength to each other's weaknesses. And that's why it's a good.
Yeah, I think so as well. And I think, you know, just with our personalities, there truly is the main motivation of just providing genuine value. Like, and when you've got 2 people looking to do that, you're gonna create some fun shit, like which is what I'm super excited for and to build with you. And, you know, also we're not going to have all the answers of doing this in the best way possible straight away, and it will just be refining, iterating, getting better, improving once we hear what people have to say too, which is something I'm really excited to build in the next 2 to 3 months, in the next 12 to 24 months, and just continuously kind of see where it ends up, bro.
Yeah. So coming back to the audience, and especially those that might be joining this community and learning from us, a lot of beginners in the space. If you could sit with that younger version of Casper, who's just starting out Mertra, maybe he's had some early success, but really still working a lot of things out, what would you say to him?
Give it a fucking crack. Give it a fucking crack. The biggest regret you're going to have is not doing it at all. You're not going to have all the answers straight away, and that's okay. So, you know, open that first door, you know, do that first step. There's going to be 100 other doors you need to, you know, walk through, but at least, you know, one foot ahead at a time, you know, give it a crack, believe in yourself, and, you know, use the resources around you to, you know, get better and connect with as well. But don't live in regret. Give it a go. That's literally, and also there's always a solution. There's always a solution. And if you remember that, you'll be, you know, in good stead for the rest of the journey. Sick. Alrighty, we out.
Right.
Thank you, Elijah. We appreciate you. Seiko, join the school community as well. Join it immediately.